Having exported our graph outputs from Substance Designer as high bit depth OpenEXR files, time to put them to work in Max and see if the final render that we get from them differs in any way from the Substance version of the floor material that we have worked with in the previous chapter. Inside 3ds Max then, let's open up the Material Editor and in the Floor tab, select all of the nodes in the physical material tree, and then after holding down the Shift key, left click and drag to create copies of them, after which we can delete everything but the material node itself. Let's then grab a bitmap node from the Material Map browser and load the EXR file that we exported for the base color channel into it. Now straight away, if I just double click to enlarge the thumbnail, you will notice that our EXR file has come into Max looking much lighter than it did in Substance Designer. And so, to make certain that we are matching our material here to what we saw in the Designer viewport and to our renders from the previous chapter, let's grab a color map from the browser, plug our EXR file into that, and then plug the color map into the base color slot of our physical material. After which we will want to apply the material to the floor geometry and make certain that the Show Shaded Material in Viewport option is turned on. Of course, as we are now using bitmaps in 3ds Max rather than using the color map as we have done here, we could, at the point of loading the EXR file, have simply switched the gamma controls from automatic to an override value of 2.2, which would have given us exactly the same end result as applying the color map. Which route we choose to take is entirely a matter of preference at this point, although using the color map does give us the option of easily tweaking our gamma settings further down the line should we want or need to. We will of course want to bring the rest of our maps into Max, and so let's one at a time add 3 more bitmap loaders to the work area, adding the needed maps to them as we go, so roughness, normal and height. After which we will want to connect everything up to the relevant inputs on the material, add a V-Ray normal map to the normal chain, and then set the tiling on each bitmap node to 4 in order to match our tiling settings on the substance. With all of that done, we can go ahead and take a render. What we get being pretty much identical to the substance version of the material that we rendered towards the end of the previous chapter. All in all then, using floating point files out of Substance Designer is pretty much like using the Substance archive itself, seeing as what we get is pretty much a straightforward plug-and-play scenario that needs just the one reverse gamma operation applying to the base color channel whilst leaving everything else as is. Of course, what we don't get with bitmaps is the ability to change either the exposed parameters or resolution of the material on the fly, which we could very easily do when working with our substance. What happens though should we decide that we need to output and work with 8-bit files from Substance Designer? Is the workflow the same, or again are there extra steps that we may need to know about? All good questions that we will look to answer in the next exercise.